Well, you smile about it.
Yeah.
You like to crush another man's ego?
Uh-huh. So when they go home that night, you know, they know that they can't kid themselves that they're so hot, you know.
You think the Russians are pretty worried about you at this moment?
Oh, yeah, they have been ever since I started playing chess.
Even as a little boy?
That's right. I remember the first thing they ever wrote about me was, you know, he's a talented player, and, you know, they showed a game I played, and then they said, but all this publicity he's getting and all of this attention cannot fail to have a harmful effect on his personality development. And sure enough, a few months later, I was a rotten person already in their press. I was doing this, I was doing that, I was conceited, you know. This is, you know, before I'd ever even, you know, they even knew anything about me personally, you know.
They sting you. They get to you.
Well, they don't anymore because I realize it has nothing to do with me. You know, if you were a great chess player, they'd be saying the exact same things about you.
They'll go for the certainty, even if it's wrong. It depends on what you promise. Why do people go out and buy fake oil stock of all kinds? Con men always get rich. They sell people all kinds of ridiculous things. They play all kinds of games which just take money away. Why? Because in each case they promise that the person will make a lot of money. And the eagerness to get rich easy, the get rich quick schemes that people fall for, is what they lose money over. Well, this is a kind of a get-rich-quick scheme of the mind. These are con men of the spirit, if you will. They're selling you something, a false security that sounds good, knowledge of the future that doesn't really exist, assurance that you'll be safe when you're not really safe, and you give them all the money you can in return for it. Same thing like betting which pea is under which shell.
During the war. And I had a large number of government contracts that I was responsible for, but I didn't have classified information about atomic bombs, and I could talk about them as freely as I wanted, I thought. After my first talk, I think the second day after my first talk, an FBI man turned up in my office and said, who gave you information about how much plutonium or uranium-235 there is in an atomic bomb? And I said, nobody. I figured it out. So I wasn't bothered thereafter. But if I had had classified information, we can see that I might well have been restrained from speaking in public about the need to get control over war the way that I was speaking.
Now, I was going to say, you know, your music is definitely not easy to play. How do you find such amazing musicians to play with?
Yeah, that's true. It's been a pain in the ass so far, but right now, you know, I'm glad that it's pretty easy for us to find people, because we have more and more fans, and a lot of our fans are guitar players themselves. So basically, our new guitar player was a fan of Necrophagist, and he just happened to be an amazing guitar player, so that's what happened. And basically, it works pretty good, you know. It's like the songwriting process is like I write the stuff, and we play it, and then we record it. Our goal is, of course, in the future to incorporate the ideas of other people, but so far it wasn't possible. But up to now, it was like, because I didn't give a fuck about any styles, anything that was popular. When we started, our technical music and shit was so unpopular that nobody appreciated it. So it was we had a hard time to really stick to it and, you know, play what we want to play. And so that's what we did. And, you know, we did this for a long time, and it pays now, and we're very happy about this.
Then people complain that politics is too bland, that politics is too samey, politics is too boring. If you ask, say, a Ross Perot supporter, wake him up if you have to. No, don't. Just stop him or her on the street and say, don't you think that parties in America spend much too much time bickering among themselves rather than getting on with the nation's business? There's too much partisanship. The person will say yes. I'll guarantee that he will. Leave a few more questions in between so the trick isn't too obvious, and then ask him, don't you think the two major parties are much too much alike? He will infallibly reply yes to that too. And in fact, it's very unclear very often when you have movements that say they want a third party. It's very unclear to many people why they always fail. One reason why they always fail is we don't yet have two parties. So third party movements, I think, will fail by definition.
Here. and that changed my life. So people like John Lennon were immensely influential, to me at least, to find the path, the right path, to bring myself down to earth.
Do you find yourself getting close to politicians and sort of the world leader types, or do they, as characters, do they not suit your personality?
Whenever there is some type of a deadlock, negotiations are not working well, I'm being asked by politicians to help out. I'm concerned in dropping names here.
Why do they turn to you, do you think?
Because when they run out of ideas and things are not moving, and when there are deadlines to achieve, they say, well, who is the master of the mind? Who is that person who can actually, with his stare, penetrate into the minds of the people we are trying to negotiate with?
The last...
Is it better for the band right now to do these type of slots that you're doing with Children of Bodom right now?
I think you have to combine several kinds of tours. This one has a bigger audience that we would draw by ourselves, definitely. So we get to play for more people, and we play fewer songs, but we play the ones we think is going to sell the new album and going to turn people on the tour. On the other hand, we try to play tours like this one and other ones. Also, we were on tour with Rage, for example, which have nothing to do with the folk metal scene. Same with Children of Bodom. So we try to, push forwards in all scenes. If you have to divide, the music industry into scenes like that, apparently you do. So I guess we're going to continue doing both, and also hopefully do a headliner tour maybe next year.
Because I value the very interactive and collaborative research environment here. My research doesn't fall very neatly into a single academic discipline. I use a lot of different approaches. My knowledge base is wide. I'm not a classic scientist who just focuses on, say, one protein for their entire career. What I do is look for patterns, and it's patterns in files on a computer that represent things that we can observe in our own DNA and in the cells in our body. But it's really the same as taking a hike outside and looking for the things that are patterns that are predictable and that reoccur, and also being able to separate those out from the random events. So why did a particular leaf fall at a given moment, and where did it land? That you may not be able to predict, but you may be able to see a pattern that at certain times of year leaves fall. We're looking for those patterns in DNA, and we're also trying to understand the random processes that break the pattern.
It's the physics that underlies chemistry. And on the other hand, you can reach out into applications of chemistry like those which explain biological processes and organisms in general. So it puts you right into the heart of understanding modern science. What I wanted to do was to share with you my vision of the principles of chemistry, so that you know how chemists think as they stir away at their liquids and boil their liquids and distill their liquids. And I also wanted to show you why I think it provides what I call the infrastructure of the modern world. Take away chemistry, take away the products of chemistry, and you're back in the Stone Age. So I want to enable you to look around, look at the world through a chemist's eyes.
Intervene in the universe as he wants, or is God too bound by the laws of science?
The question of whether God is bound by the laws of science is a bit like the question, can God make a stone that is so heavy that he cannot lift it? I don't think it is very useful to speculate on what God might or might not be able to do. Rather, we should examine what he actually does with the universe we live in. All our observations suggest that it operates according to well-defined laws. These laws may have been ordained by God, but it seems that he does not intervene in the universe to break the laws, at least not once he had set the universe going.
Yeah.
There weren't women surrounding them. When I was making movies when I was 7 or 8 years old, I didn't see another woman on the set. Occasionally there would be a makeup woman.
A script supervisor.
Maybe a script supervisor.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are really the only two positions, and otherwise they were all guys. I never, except for the woman who was playing my mother, there were no women.
You think there's a kind of rational explanation for that there's economics or whatever, or some social thing?
Yeah, I think pretty much money drives everything.
Yeah.
Almost every decision that's made in Hollywood today is driven by money. It's a small town.
Yeah.
You know, it's an incredibly small town, and you know, the world is changing now, and information has become entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, watching the news has become is supposed to be as entertaining as, you know, going to the cinema now. So now the news has to, you know, have a logo and you know, funny graphics and a soundtrack and all that other kind of stuff just to try and
like documentaries
compete.
Now.
So it's a different world than it was 10 or 20 years ago.
Or what they do for you. You love them for the values, the virtues which they have achieved in their own character. You don't love causelessly. You don't love everybody indiscriminately. You love only those who deserve it.
And then if a man is weak or a woman is weak, then he is beyond love?
He certainly does not deserve it. He certainly is beyond. He can always correct it. Man has free will. If a man wants love, he should correct his weaknesses or his flaws, and he may deserve it. But he cannot expect the unearned, neither in love nor in money, neither in matter nor spirit.
You have lived in our world, and you recognize the fallibility of human beings. There are very few of us, then, in this world, by your standards, who are worthy of love.
Unfortunately, yes, very few. But it is open to everybody to make themselves worthy of it, and that is all that my morality offers them.
If they will...
But that is my job, that is my profession. Obviously, I'm aware that we're dealing with relative subtleties, but people often misunderstand just how sophisticated the human eye is and how it develops over time. And so, for example, you know, I grew up in a generation where when you switch on the television, you know, in the 80s and 90s, you could tell within a couple of shots, within 5 or 10 seconds, whether you were watching a feature film being shown on television, a news program, a drama, a television commercial. Everybody's very sensitized to the differences in imaging technology. They might not understand it. They might not be able to say, this is why this looks this way, this is why that looks that way, and nor should they. But in terms of being sensitized to it and it having an effect on the way they perceive the story they're being shown, that's inarguable. That's a very powerful component of what cinema has always been.